All right. Welcome to the class. Sorry, I'm running about a minute late. I ran a class right before this one. So today's class is going to be on phonetics. So phonetics is the study of sounds in language. And I teach this class because I think that a knowledge of how sounds work in languages, and specifically in English, can help you on your own to predict how English words are going to sound when you see them. Knowing to read these symbols is also really nice because increasingly more modern dictionaries will use these symbols to write the words. So this can make them very readable in dictionaries. It can also be useful because when you understand what these symbols mean and how phonetics work, it can help you with more subtle aspects of English pronunciation. So, for example, near the end of this one, we'll talk about why P's sound different at the start of the word in English than if they come somewhere else in the word, or why the word cats ends in an S, but dogs ends in a Z. And all those things can be explained and understood if you just know the simple sound science that is behind them. So, I guess I'll pause for just a few minutes to see if any students show up. But if not, I will just go ahead and get to the PowerPoint that I have prepared. Oh, hello there.
Hello.
And what is your name?
People call me Greg.
Greg?
Yes, because I live in the UK, it is almost impossible for them usually to pronounce it correctly.
And how is it pronounced correctly?
Correct is Grzegorz.
Gregors?
Grzegorz. There will be
Grzegorz.
the first letters is hard G. G. Later it is Ż. Later there's no E, is like in Spanish, I think. E, not E, E. Later G, another hard G. Later not O, it's like O. So there's a short sound, and later Ż. Grzegorz.
So Grzegorz? Grzegorz?
You don't have to exaggerate, Grzegorz. Yeah, it could be funny.
Grzegorz. Okay. Well, I guess I'll call you Greg, or if I'm feeling confident and it won't offend you, maybe Grzegorz. Grzegorz. Very difficult for me.
Yeah, I know. New sound.
And are you from Eastern Europe then?
I come from Poland.
Okay.
Central Europe.
I was guessing either Poland or the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. This is the class on phonetics. And in fact, we'll be seeing sounds that we can use to describe how your name sounds in just a moment here. And hello, Hide. Welcome to the class.
Hello, nice to see you again.
Okay, so let's get started. I've made a little PowerPoint for this class. So phonetics. Phonetics is the study of how sounds are used in languages. And linguists, which are language scientists, they use phonetic alphabets so that we can write down languages in ways that anyone can read, no matter what language you speak or what language we're writing in. There are two very commonly used phonetic alphabets. One is called the Americanists' phonetic alphabet, called APA, and the other is the International Phonetic Alphabet, IPA. And I know that first one has Americanists in the name, but it's actually not an exclusive to America alphabet. So the reason to learn phonetics, I think, is that especially because English spelling is so bad, as Hide, who was my last class, saw, the I in W-I-N-D could be either wind, as in I wind the clock, or I in the wind blows. And it's a completely different sound in wink, where it's an E sound, even though it's only one letter different. Also, many modern dictionaries use these phonetic alphabets, and also learning these can help explain some other weird aspects of English. For instance, at the end, we'll talk about why it's cats, but dogs. So here's what the actual phonetic alphabet looks like, the international phonetic alphabet, which is what we're going over. You can see there's a lot of symbols and complicated charts over there, but we're not going to worry about that. We're just worrying about symbols for English. So here are the English. Oh, and by the way, if you ever have any questions or anything you'd want to say, feel free to interrupt me. Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's one thing because I have this old dictionary for tourists, and there is misleading information that phonetic alphabet is used in every English country except of the United States. So I don't get it. So what they try to say by that, because you mentioned about American English phonetic alphabet, but the dictionary is quite old. It was 20 years ago when that information was published in it.
Ah, yeah. When originally the Americanists' phonetic alphabet is a little older than the international one. It was originally invented when linguists were recording Native American languages, which is actually where that name comes from. Even though it was widely used even in parts of Europe. Nowadays, it is true though that you see the Americanists' phonetic alphabet more commonly in America, whereas the rest of the world tends to use the IPA, which is why I'm teaching IPA.
Okay.
Yeah. Wikipedia uses almost exclusively the IPA, which is another reason I use it because, as odd as it sounds, Wikipedia is actually a really great resource for language learning. But anyway, so here are the IPA symbols for English consonants. So luckily, a lot of them already look like they're romantic letters. So we have P as in pit, B as in bit, T as in tin, D as in din, K as in cut, G as in gut, F as in fat, V as in vat, S as in sap, Z as in zap, H as in ham, as in run, W as in we, L as in left, M as in map, and N as in nap. So all these ones are nice because they kind of already look like their English counterparts. However, there are some symbols that do not look like English letters. So first we have this rather funny looking thing. It's ch, as in cheap. Often in English this is written with a ch, ch. Then we have the English J sound, j, represented by this other funny looking thing, j. Then we have a Greek letter theta, and this is th, as in thin, not to be mistaken for the then. So these are two sounds that are both represented in English with a th, but one is th and the other is the. So the sound is written with this letter, which is called an F, and you find it in Icelandic. Then we have this tall-looking S. This is the sh sound, as in wash. Then we have the zh sound, as in garage or mirage, or in your name, Grzegorz, is that zh sound.
Yes, it's like j. I think it's not j, it's j because we have j sound and j sound.
Yeah, zh and zh. Yeah. So this is the zh. It might be it's a little different.
Yes, it's different.
Yeah. So then we have this J, which is actually in phonetics, it's a y. So, oops, sorry. So remember that even though it's spelled J, in phonetics it's pronounced y, as in yes. And then we have this N with a hook, and this is the ng sound, as in king. Now, you might have noticed that those funny symbols for the ch and the j are literally just a t plus a sh sound, make ch, and d plus a zh sound, make j. And that's actually what they are. And we'll talk a bit more about how those sounds are made later, but they look like there's two symbols fused together because that's what they are. So then here's the vowels of English, these symbols. I speaks Standard American, so those are the vowels we're going to go over. And I can also talk to you about the British vowels, but I'm more familiar with these ones. Luckily, a lot of them are the same. So this is E as in need, I as in kid, E as in red, A as in trap, as in bug, as in comma, and as in got, O as in bore. In American English, this pretty much only exists before R's, bore, and U as in rule, and as in wood. Now, there's also these double vowels in English, and they have a fancy name in phonetics called diphthongs, which I include here because it's fun to say, diphthong. You don't actually have to know this word, but I just really like saying it. These are vowel sounds that are made of two vowels kind of fused together. And a key to these vowels is all of them are made with a little bit of closure at the end. So if you're ever having trouble saying these, try physically closing your jaw as you're making the sound, and that'll kind of give it to you. So this first one is I, as in nice. This next one is A, as in play. And this one, Greg, you'll notice that E at the start of it, that E is actually the sound you were talking about. It's in your name.
Yes.
In English, it only appears in this diphthong, so A. So English speakers often have a hard time making that A sound because we're so used to going A. We're closing it up at the end. Oftentimes when English speakers are trying to learn Spanish or languages that have these sounds, we're told to not move our jaws is how to use them, which is why I give you the advice of try to close your jaws as you're saying them. So that's A as in play. This next one is ow as in how. Then we have O as in boat, and oi as in boy. So those are all the symbols, and I'll always pronounce them when you see them, but these are how you should know. So I think it'd be good now to practice.
Alright.
So yeah, here's where things get a little more interesting. So would anyone like to try at this first one right here?
Yeah.
All right, Hide, how do you think this one sounds?
Rich. No. Rich.
Say it one. Rich.
Rich.
Yes, this is the word rich. All right. So, Greg, would you like to try the next one?
Gem.
Say it one more time.
Gem.
Yeah, and really emphasize that ah. Make sure it's not an
Yeah.
eh.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so this is jam. So, and let's just alternate here because I believe you two are still the only ones in the class. Yes. So, Hide, would you like to try the next one?
Bath.
Correct. Greg?
Um,
And if you need reminding on what a character sounds like, just ask.
Sing.
Hmm?
Sing. Sing.
You're missing one sound. What's that sound at the very end?
I don't know.
So-
I don't remember what that means.
So yeah, so that sound at the end there is the Z, and it's the same as in English.
Zing.
No, sorry, the first sound you had correct. That's the th sound.
Oh, right. No, I don't know. I just didn't remember.
All right, that's all right. It'd be a little terrible if you guys got all of these without any trouble. So we're gonna sound this out. So the first sound is th. Do you know what that
Thing.
second with that I
Thing?
is?
Thing.
It's things.
Things.
Yeah. So this word is written with that S at the end, but it's actually pronounced with a Z. So things. and it's that NG fused together into that one sound. Things.
Things.
So Hide. Oh, so does that make sense, Greg?
The last thing, the letter Z, it always be using this phonetic alphabet presented as things, dogs, and similar words, mean plural words with INGS. I'm sorry.
So yeah, so some words that are no, so some words that are plural will actually be pronounced with an S, but some things will be pronounced with a Z. Things. And it's always written with an S. And the reason why it changes like that, we're going to learn it at the very end here, is actually has to do with a feature of the sounds called voicing, which has to do with whether or not your vocal cords are vibrating when you say the word. So that sound, you kind of feel your throat. Is voice, so it becomes things. But if it was voiceless, like in thick, it would be fix with an S. Fix. And I'll go over that in more detail right after this. So let's continue on for the moment. Hide, would you like to try the next word?
Could.
Right. This is could, spelled with an L, but it's not pronounced. Could. Greg, would you like to try the next one?
Rice.
Right. Rice.
Oh, I was thinking about. I'm sorry. Okay. So,
What were you thinking about?
something like. Yeah, there's in the chat.
Were you thinking like rise, as in to rise out of bed?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be like this, but it would be spelled with a Z instead of that S. That would be rise.
Okay.
And can you hear it? The difference between rise and rice?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah. Hide, would you like to try the next one?
How?
How? Hide is taking some classes with me, so she's probably a little better at this. She's got a leg up. So Greg, how about this next one? And if it helps, you can do it sound by sound, just in your so p, e.
Pizza? No, it's impossible. What's...
Now that upside down E, that is the schwa. That's the unstressed syllable sound in English. That
No, I too many sounds as a first lesson because I'm quite amateur in this.
That's all right. That's all right. So that upside down E, it's a sound. Its name is schwa, and all you need to know is when vowels become unstressed in English, they frequently become this vowel, which is never stressed in English, and it's a very small vowel. It kind of barely exists. So this word is actually, and you're very close on your first try. This is pizza.
Yeah, I think I said that was impossible, but I don't know.
Yeah, see, you're too harsh on yourself. You should go with what your gut tells you.
Okay.
Don't worry about guessing. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. In fact, sometimes it's good to be wrong because that's how we figure out how to be right. So always just remember to take the guess. So Hide, how about this next one?
Machine.
Yeah, machine. And remember to really underpronounce that schwa. So it's not machine, it's machine. So, all right, Greg, back to you.
Okay. Often?
Almost. But that tall S, do you remember what sound that makes?
Tell us. Often? No.
So this is it's O. You have the
Ocean.
O right? Yeah. So
Ocean.
it's ocean. So yeah, you had it right. You just couldn't remember what that sound was. But yeah, that's sh. So it's ocean. So Hide, here's a nice long one.
Explosion.
Yes, this is X, and you can see we'll go through it sound by sound. It's X, P, L, O, J, N. So explosion. All right, Greg, here's another one for you.
So that will be da and dice.
Now that's an L after the D.
All right.
That's all right. They look similar.
Um, Dalf, Dali, Sean. Oh.
So we'll take this bit by bit. So those first two symbols, remember that upside down E is a schwa, and it's very
Yeah.
underpronounced. So it's not duh, it's duh.
The
All right, so that's the first part. Then we have that L, and remember this is not E, but what is it? It's related to E, but it's
I think.
sorry. So remember that there are two kind of E sounds in English. There's the tense E, which is what we get when we get that lowercase I.
So the first that will be the short sound, and the second like E and E. Dal, deal.
Except it's not. We say that they're long and short, but that name can be a little misleading because they're actually not really one is longer and one is shorter. What it is one is E, and then what we call short E is pronounced I.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's E and I. And they're still pretty similar sounds, but the difference is not in their length. It's in how tense your tongue is. So, for instance, if you can say it with me, when you go E, your tongue is right up there. Your teeth, it's a little tense. You can kind of feel the muscles working in it. But if you just let everything relax, but keep your tongue there, it goes from E to I. So this uppercase I is the sound I.
Yeah. I don't know. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. So this syllable will be li. So you got the first one was duh, and then this is li because it's l plus I. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think. I'm quite confused because I was quite scared these symbols.
Yeah, these symbols can be a little confusing. In fact, here, really quick, let's go back to the page where we were looking at them. So here they are again. So let's go through them. Let's go through them one more time for you, Greg, and this is a little slower, okay? Because I feel like I went through it a little too fast the first time.
Okay.
So this lowercase I, this is the sound E, what we often call long E, the long I in English. And then you say it E, as in need.
Okay.
So say that word with me, need.
Need.
Yeah. Now the short I, which is written with a capital I, this little small capital I, this is I. You find this in like the word kid.
Kid. Okay.
Kid. Yeah, so it's I. Next, we have this is actually the Greek letter epsilon, but it's also kind of looks like a backwards 3, however you best remember it. And this is the English E sound, the eh.
Yeah, it's the same thing in my English, in my language, native language. So I will.
Yes, this is as in red. That's how you write it. So then, going on, we have this sound. It looks like an A and an E fused together. This is that very distinct English vowel, ah. Ah. So it's like ah, except ah is in the back of your mouth. Ah is right up in the front. So
Uh,
one way to yeah ah. So one way
the,
to remember is this
because I know
this what
because
what was that?
I know this sound from my language, and when I'm thinking about when I look at the comma, it is what
Hmm.
is the difference between this a and the letter a in a comma?
So the deal is that it's not actually pronounced comma. It's
Ah,
pronounced comma.
comma, comma.
It's unstressed and it becomes this. The way you do that schwa is kind of if you put your mouth just in a neutral position, like you're not speaking, it's just open because you're breathing,
Okay,
and then you make a noise and just
comma,
uh, yeah, comma.
comma.
So
So I don't
yes,
make any movements. Okay.
yeah. So one way to do it is kind of, when you're trying to just when you're pronouncing like letters of the alphabet, you go like, okay, here are the letters, p, t, g. That little vowel sound that comes after them, that's that's a schwa, and it's kind of the most weak vowel sound you find in human languages. It's just this little sound. It's barely pronounced, and it's different. And sometimes it does sound a bit like or ah, but that tends to be because you're stressing it. And if you stress it, it will often transform into an or an ah, because those are sounds that can be easily stressed. But can't really be stressed. So remember, it's not comma, but comma.
Comma.
And yeah, and this is how weak this vowel is. It's most distinct when it comes before letters like N, L, or R. For instance, in the word little, that last syllable is ol, and that's a schwa before an L. Ol. Or in a reader, that last syllable, that's a schwa before an R. So you can hear how it's so light that it often kind of fuses into the letter following it. So that's schwa. And the way to generally pronounce a schwa if you're worried is kind of almost imagine it wasn't there, but that letter was still a part of a different syllable. So for instance, when we're trying out delicious, you could kind of think like if there wasn't even a vowel after D, but it wasn't delicious, it's still delicious.
Delicious. Delicious.
Does any of that make sense, Greg?
Yeah, I think. Just need to
Okay.
look more closely on everything.
And
Everyone.
yes. Yeah, so it's always important. What?
What will be a difference between you sound roll and bug? Because bug there's U letter, but bug it sounds like more bug.
Ah, you mean between like the ah and the
Yeah, because
Okay.
there's a roll and bug.
So yeah, these are similar, and especially sometimes because you said you were in the UK, right?
Yes.
So in the UK, they sometimes where we have an ah, and ironically, sometimes we have in America have an ah, they have an but so these sounds are very similar. The difference is so when you say ah, it's right there and you can kind of feel it. It's all the way in the back of your throat. Your tongue is down. When you go to the doctor and they tell you say ah, they say that because when you do this, you open up your throat. It's the only way to make that noise and get your tongue out of the way.
So bug.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that would be bog. So, but when you say bug, it's a little higher up in your mouth. Bug.
Bug.
Yeah, that's it. So it's a little different from ah. So it's not bog, it's bug.
Bug. Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear it?
Yeah, bug. It's just like my tongue go high a little bit.
Yeah, it's just a little higher than that ah, ah. You can just push your tongue out a little bit. This is actually it's even related to that sound we find in boar, that little backward C looking one. It's actually related to that one. The big difference between those two sounds is your lips are not rounded, but they are rounded.
Or
Yeah, so if you kind of unround your lips when you say bore, you'll get bar.
Bar. Okay.
So yeah, so I hope that does that help at all?
Yeah, I will learn it with every second, I think.
Yes, it's a good way to think. So yeah, so then we have I, a, ah, as in got. Is that letter A is ah? This little
God.
backward.
Okay.
It did. Are you sure?
I'm sorry?
You didn't. You don't have a question?
Uh, about God. God is like, oh, God.
In British English, it'll be a bit more like got. In American English, it's very much got.
Yeah,
Let me try another word that I know will be the same in both
I know.
dialects.
I don't have too much practice with the British English. I'm more listen more Americans because
Okay.
I don't. So I'm quite more familiar with this. So it will be like short. It sounds like got. No, because right now I was thinking about get, and get. It's
Hmm.
like get,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Get.
and got
Yes.
will be like okay, got,
So it's definitely yeah. It is got, not goat. Yeah.
got. Okay.
Got. Yeah. Got. Thought. Rot. Those are all words. So then moving on, this vowel we find in American English it's only before R's like bore or war or torn. So you'll pretty much always see this next to an R. So if you ever see that or sound, you can almost think like that as a bit of a one of those diphthongs, those double vowels. Except instead of a double vowel, it's a vowel and an R. This won't appear too much in British English because a big difference between American English and British English is in American English we really pronounce our R's at the end of words, whereas in British English they normally don't pronounce R's at the end of words. But in American English it's bore. In British English it'd be more like bull.
Yeah, I know about it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's or. And then we have these two U sounds, and these are the same relation between E and I, where one is the long I and the other is the short I, I. This is the long U and the short U. And it's the same thing where one is tense and the other is relaxed. So we have the tense oo, written with a letter U, oo, and then we have this little squiggly U, this upside down omega, and this is for wood. Can you say
Okay.
that with me? Would,
Wood, roll,
rule.
roll.
So yeah, make sure it's really rule and would.
Okay. Roll, wood.
Hmm. And yeah, these sounds often give non-native English speakers a bit of trouble, especially because it's a little uncommon in other languages. But yeah, and so then we have our double vowels down here. And so these are I, A, ow, O, and oi. And if you ever need help remembering these, it's kind of the I is ah plus e. So that squiggly a doesn't appear on its own in English, but it does appear next to this I sound. So I, nice. Then play, a, play.
A.
Ow, yeah. Ow is that ah again, but this time instead of I, it's ow with that
One more
ooh
thing,
sound.
because I see this first nice. I see like a representation of uh, one letter, but actually I was thinking about there's a representation of two letters, but I was thinking that it's a representation that represent one letter in this case because there's this sound nice. So it is like just I.
Yeah, and it really is, and it is this fusion sound. It's I. You can't really separate it into A and E because they fuse together. Nice. I. It's considered this double vowel because unlike the vowels up there at the top, E, ah, you can kind of hold them and it's one note and it's consistent all the way through. E, oo, ah. But then with these double vowels, you can't. Like you can't really go ah. You can't go I. You can't hold that because if you do hold ice, you get this ah, and that's not what it sounds like when you go. So you'll notice that at the end it always goes ice. There's always that at the very end. So
Okay.
that's why they're these double vowels. It really refers to the fact that these are normal vowels, but at the end they close up before you get to the consonant. So it's I, a, ow, o, oi. And you can feel it when you say ow or o, you should feel your lips kind of close up at the end as they go to make that oo sound. And with the I, a, oi, you'll kind of feel your jaw moving up as your mouth moves into the I position at the very end.
How? Both.
So does that all make sense to you?
Yeah, just one rule that because I didn't learn the phonetic alphabet, but one rule that, for example, with both, I remember there's one rule when two vowels go walking, first do the talking. But in this case, I see two letters both, and
Mm-hmm.
I if I will follow this rule, that A is completely silent, but if A is silent, why I have two signs that represent both of them in the
You mean why in the phonetic alphabet is it two symbols for
yeah.
these? The real reason is so in a lot of languages, especially in Europe, and this includes Polish and German and Italian, and even most languages around the world like Japanese or Korean, they have spelling reform, which means that their spelling very much mirrors how it sounds. So in German, they have a similar rule to the one you mentioned. It's when two vowels go a walking, the second does the talking.
Yeah.
This is because in German, if you see EI, it's
No,
pronounced.
the first do the talking side.
Yeah, in German, it's the opposite. But this is because in German, that rule works every time. EI is always IE is always E. Now, in English, however, and me and Hide talked about this last class, I was talking about English spelling, is that English spelling has never been reformed or standardized, which means that that most of our spellings kind of are determined by how they were spelled hundreds of years ago when the dictionary was when the first English language dictionary was written.
I am not sure. I think that I see in British English more silent letters that they are not used than in American English when actually get rid of the U letters before R.
Yeah, we get rid of a lot of U's, and also in words like realize, we spell them with a Z than with an S. So we do have some spelling changes, but our spelling is still very inconsistent. So, like, remember how at the start of this lesson I mentioned the word spelled W-I-N-D, and how that word can be pronounced wind, or it can also be pronounced wind. And the answer is that there's no way to know just by looking at the spelling how it's pronounced. So the reason that this OA, is boat here, even though this is an O and an A, and then it makes this O sound, that's two sounds, the real reason is because long ago in English, that OA made more sense for how it was pronounced.
So it
But
was
since...
Teacher, why don't we move on? I
Okay.
learned the formal class. If he wanted to know about that, he should have taken the formal lesson.
Okay, well, I'll explain it real quick, and then I'll move on so that we can all,
Because
if
it
we
takes
want.
too long, over 20 minutes.
Okay.
okay.
So Just all you need to know, Greg, is that English spelling.
It's not a private lesson.
Okay. All you need to know, Greg, is that English spelling is very inconsistent. It doesn't actually reflect how we pronounce it.
I already learned in a formal lesson.
Okay. So we'll move on. So this is these words. This is delicious, and this is language. So we can see it's delicious and language. And this one has that G. Unlike things, where you didn't pronounce the G, it was just things, but in language, you do pronounce the G.
Okay.
So we're going to move on. So here's some other odds and ends, things to look out for, just when you see words written phonetically. So for instance, if you looked up the word literature in the Wiktionary, which is an online dictionary I like to use, you would see this. And this has some things which might be confusing. So thing one, these periods, these represent syllable breaks. So we can see that literature is 4 syllables long. Literature. And that's where the syllables break. So it's not it's not it's literature. The other thing is this little apostrophe. This apostrophe comes before a stressed syllable. So that tells us that this word is literature and not literature or literature. It's literature.
So this apostrophe can be in the middle, so we know that will be stressed the middle word. The word.
Yes. So if this was on the second syllable, then apostrophe before the second syllable, we'd know this was literature. But because it's on the first one, we know it's literature. So this can always tell you where the stress is, especially in longer words. Like phonetics, it would come before the ne, because that's the stressed syllable, phonetics. Now, this odd-looking schwa right here, with a little like wing on it, this is actually the same as a schwa and an R. You'll sometimes see this because amongst language scientists, some people argue that this is not actually a vowel and a consonant, that it's just a schwa that is fused together with the R to become a new kind of vowel, and people don't always agree on this. So really, for your purposes, as not being scientists, you just need to know that this is the same as schwa and R, the same as . And there's even one more way to write this, and you'll see this written as an R with a bar underneath it. You can see it right there at the end of this paragraph, . And all these 3 ways are all pronounced . And you may also even see these with an N or an L. And just like with the R, that just means you pronounce it N and ul. It's the same thing. It's just different people choose to write it a different way. But it's effectively the same. It just reflects different opinions on science, not differences in pronunciation. One last thing, if you ever see this upside down R, that's actually technically the correct symbol in IPA for that sound in English. Technically, the upper facing R is the sound for ra, as you find in Spanish.
I've never seen that.
What did you say?
I've never seen this one, like upside down R.
Yeah, you'll normally not see it if you're looking at English dictionaries and things, and the reason is because obviously there's not a button on the keyboard for upside down R, so it's just easier to write the up facing R. So you really only see this one in if a linguist, if a scientist has come through and they're correcting it. But for most dictionaries, they'll use the upwards facing R. This is a just in case thing. If you ever see this upside down R, that's what it is. It's the same thing as up facing R. Just so you know and you won't be confused.
Okay.
Okay. So let's do some practice again. So this time I want you guys to try and write down these things phonetically for me. So I've written all the things there on the right. They all have a number next to them. Mm-hmm. So Hide, and I'll pronounce the word for you if you want. But would you like to try the first word?
Through.
This is thorough.
Thorough.
Yes.
I
So,
can
what do you
find
think is the first sound?
What sounded? Okay, 19.
Correct. 19. So what do you think follows it?
So, next maybe vowel. So, so, 32? No.
It is not 32. That would be Thor. But this is Thur.
So. 30? No.
Actually, that's correct. It is 30, followed by an R. Thur. Remember that a schwa and an R next to each other sound like like kind of like the R takes over, just .
Mm-hmm.
So what next?
Next R. So R. I can find it. R. No, I can find it. Where?
What are you looking for?
R.
Well, we already have the R.
12.
But it's number 12. But yes, you are right. After the schwa would be an R. So Thur.
So next 38.
38. Correct. Thorough.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's all.
And yeah, that's it. You're done. Thorough. So now, Greg.
Oh.
Do you know how to say this word?
Island. S is silent.
Yes, correct. The S is silent. So what do you think that first vowel is?
I think 23.
It's not 23. Remember, 23 is y.
Yeah, I have to think.
So you have it sounded right. It's I, but which symbol is I?
Oh, I think I get it. Nice.
So yeah, the same sound in rice and nice. It's one of those double sounds.
35.
Correct. 35. So you have I. So now we just need lind. Island.
14, I think.
Correct.
The island and island and like and so it will be like in the word it will swap now.
Which one?
Because I was thinking about the sound in the word trap or no, it will be and like in the word comma.
Like in the word yeah.
So in the word comma it will be just a second, just only thing that to find it. Number 30, I think.
It would actually, this one has two correct options. It could be either 30 or it could be number 26, either island or island. Those are both legitimate pronunciations. It depends on what part of the country you're from. I actually put I here because I'm from the South, and that's what we would say. But in other parts of America, they would use a schwa. I actually probably should have put a schwa here now that I think about it to make it more standard. So, and
I think next one will be 16. And D4.
Yeah, correct. Island, you did it. Let's see. Now we're gonna skip sword here. Do you have any questions, Greg?
No, I just need to customize to using it, and I think it will be fine.
So there's sword. I'm just gonna skip it because it's a little easy. I think it'd be more fun to go to the next one. So Hide, would you like to try this word? Do you know how to say it?
Okay. The first is double, so 13. 13.
The first is indeed 13.
13. And next is A. Oh, I can't find it.
Mhm.
27,
27 maybe?
yes.
Yes,
27.
you are correct.
Hmm.
So what
Next,
next?
and, okay, 16.
Yes, 16.
Oh, 10.
Yes.
Next, D sounded 4.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 36.
Very good. Yeah. This is a very tricky one because it's spelled Wednesday, but it's pronounced Wednesday.
D,
Wednesday.
D is quiet in the middle, I know that.
Yeah, the D is quiet. A little background on this one. The reason it's Wednesday is it's named after the god Woden or Odin from German mythology, but in modern pronunciation it's Wens. It's dropped out, but the spelling still looks like Weden. So, Greg, would you like to try this next one? Oops, not gonna have David.
So the first I saw it is F. The next one it will be 12R.
Mm-hmm.
I.
And which sound is that? They're in the 30s. Which one do you think it is?
Nice. It like will be similar like in the word nice. So
Mm-hmm.
okay, the same letter 45, 35.
Correct, 35.
Fry. I need a G sound 6. G.
It
Fry.
is no. That is incorrect. So this is fry. The way this word sounds is frightened.
Yeah. GH is quiet. So that would be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know some. I know. I read about silent letters. I know some basic rules. So I need a T sound.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3.
Correct.
Fright. Net. Fright. Net. Net.
Frightened.
Frightened. And short E. I think.
So somewhere in the 20s.
Number 14.
Number 14? No, that's an L, remember.
Sorry, it sounds such similar. That won't be 25. There's a
It's
better.
not 25. That'd be frightened.
Yeah, there's a better fit for 26. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's actually going to be a schwa, but very close. Remember that schwa, that I are sometimes a little interchangeable. So you weren't far off.
So the next is sound N. So it will be 16.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
that
what's
will
the last
be
sound?
the same sound that it was 26. Frightened.
No, there's actually no more vowels in here.
Oh, frightened. So it is
Yeah.
quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Quite confusing, but okay.
Yeah, like I said, English spelling is very bad. So this last sound will actually be a D, frightened.
Okay.
All right. So now
that will be always ed. That will be only d. So if I say
that ed is always a D.
without any letters before d, if I want to represent.
It's
Okay,
spelled
great.
with an ed, but it's only pronounced like D or T. And in fact, running low on time, so I'm going to skip ahead now. So these words, the next ones are judgment, judgment. This is h, I, t, height, and this is a, t. Now, I'm going to go a little fast here, and I know it can be complicated, but it's going to make sense. So there's some things I want to tell you about, which is the letters have scientific names that describe how the sound is made. So consonant names tend to have 3 parts. One part tells you the voicing of the sound. The other part will tell you what parts of the mouth you use to make it, which is called the place of articulation. and how you use those parts, which in science is called the manner of articulation. Now, when I say voicing, there's voiced and voiceless. And you can always tell this if you are using your vocal cords or not. So if it's voiced, your throat will vibrate. If it's voiceless, it's not. So here we can see the letters at the top are all voiceless, and the letters at the bottom are voiced. So you can kind of feel it. It's P versus B, T, D, K, G, Ch, J, Sh, J, Th, V, S, Z. So this is a really important distinction, voiced and voiceless. Can you hear it? The P, B, T, D.
Mm-hmm.
So this is important. I'm going to skip a little bit over this part really quick because I want to get to something here at the end. So at the beginning I talked about cats with an S, but dog with a Z. So as you may now notice, S is the voiceless sound and Z is the voiced sound. But otherwise, these sounds are the same. Now, when you add that S to the word, and you can do this for plurals in English, like cat to cats, or the possessive, like John's cat, or even for verbs, as in John pets the cat, that S will always match the voicing of the last sound. So when it's in front of that voiceless T, as in cat, it's an S, cats. But when it's in front of a G, it's the Z, the dogs. This also happens to that past tense thing we were just talking about, that ED, because it's pronounced D. So remember that there's D is voiced and T is voiceless. So if it's climb, which one do you think it's going to be?
Climbed. I climbed.
A D or a T?
I climbed. I think climbed. I think T. I don't know.
What do you think, Hide?
D.
D. D is correct. And do you know why, Hide?
Climb. If I pronounce my throat is shaking. But
No, you're correct. Yeah. M is a voiced sound. So because M is voiced, you can feel your throat. When it ends in an M, the D will be a D because climbed.
If the letter will be like B, it's it has this sound, so it is not voiced but the second one. So in this case, climbed. If we past tense, that will be I forgot what pronounce it as a D sound because there's a B before.
No, you will never pronounce that B in climb.
Climb. Oh yeah, right. Climbed. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. It'll be climbed, not climbed. It'll be climbed. Now, this is the opposite for walk, because walk is voiceless. So when we put ed to it, it becomes walked. Not walked. Walked. Now, this has a fancy sounding name called progressive voice assimilation. Now, just some few other things I want to mention really quick, because we're just about out of time. These rules are subtle, but they have a big impact. Just some more rules to go over real quick. One is called nasalization, which is that before nasal sounds, which are M, N, and vowels become nasal. So if you've ever noticed that cat and can, the A sounds different, that's because it's become nasal before that A. So instead of a, it's a. Cat, can. And you can even write this. Sometimes you'll see it written with that little symbol over it. Not always. You only sometimes see that. Another big thing is voiceless stops, which are P, T, and K, become aspirated, said with a puff of air at the start of a word or a stressed syllable, but not after an S. So you can feel it with your mouth that there's, when you say B, D, G, B, D, or G, Ba-da-ga, there's a little bit of air, but not much. But if in English, when we say pa-ta-ka, there's a lot of air. You can almost hear pa-ta-ka. And that's an important thing. Another thing, it's called vowel lengthening, which is that English vowels are actually pronounced longer before a voiced consonant. So for instance, the E in beat versus the E in bead. So beat, bead. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
So, okay. So we're now out of time. But I went a little long answering some of Greg's questions. So does anyone have any questions or anything they'd like to ask about before I end the class?
No questions.
No
question?
question. Just
Well,
I have to check this presentation once again and just cram it.
all right. It's always good to practice. I have attached, actually, this PowerPoint to the class page. I believe you can download it from it if you want to look through it. I hope it was useful. Wikipedia, by the way, if you're interested in more of this stuff, is always a great resource for this. They have a page for every sound with examples of that sound from every language you could possibly imagine that has the sound. So thanks for joining the class. I hope it was useful.
Thank you. That was very useful. Bye.
Bye.
See you next time.